Recording.
Ho,
And
ho, ho.
this motherfucker's live. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Brick City Blockade here, leading up to the events of The Rise of Skywalker, which I am looking so forward to. These two gentlemen in front of me, we're all going to sit in a theater on December 18th, 19th.
19th.
See, I'm looking forward to the 19th so much that I even gave us a day ahead. December 19th, down in Andrew's neck of the woods. We are so looking forward to it. But leading up to that, folks, like I said before, we are going to be going back in time. We're going to be reviewing all of the Star Wars films up until the Rise of Skywalker. And we are so excited to start off this episode in particular with these two gentlemen in front of me with the Phantom Menace episode 1. Boy, we were all alive at that time when that thing came out. And Sean, I am going to flip it over to you first. This is your first rewatch for the podcast in particular. You know, you and I really never did a rewatch with the podcast, which Andrew mentioned before. I feel like first, like real, like consecutive going through all the films, looking at different aspects.
I think the only one that we only did was Empire that we did, but we barely covered it.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, Sean, and this is how this podcast in particular, this episode is going to move, is that I'm looking for like our big three moments from this, like big three takeaways from rewatching Phantom Menace here. What are your big three as somebody who has just come off of watching Phantom Menace and re-experiencing it once again, of course, on the Disney Plus platform that we have now available to us?
And it looks so much better now.
So much better.
Like when I was first watching it was great to just rewatch it again. Just start from the beginning in chronological order, not theatrical release.
I thought.
I mean, the first thing I noticed is how crisp the movie is. I mean, that's not gonna be not my takeaway. I'm just saying how.
Yeah, no, it's true.
How Disney Plus is doing that for the. For the Christmas of Christmas, the crisps. I just say Christmas now.
Yeah, just Christmas for the Christmas season.
Well, yeah, I get the Santa, but for each, I feel like the Attack of Clones, Avengers is going to be the same way, even better, and it's going to be great to see the old ones. The original ones, see how cool does it see even on Disney Plus. I think it's gonna be a great experience throughout. And the first takeaway I noticed in the Phantom Menace, which I honestly loved, is just the setting, the scenery, where everything takes place. Naboo, what's that place? Tatooine again. I love Tatooine. I mean, it's great, and especially
a different part of Tatooine too.
Yeah, especially spoilers if you haven't seen The Mandalorian. Gonna spoiler alert here, right here. So, if,
which I love that they went back to Tatooine in that episode.
Yeah, I mean. That was one of my favorite parts in the episode when they go back to Tatooine, and it was great. It's like, hey, when I was watching the Phantom Menace, it's like, hey, I just watched The Mandalorian. It was great to see that Tatooine show up again. I mean, just the whole like the settings, and my other takeaway is, of course, one all-time favorite villains in Star Wars is Darth Maul. Even though he didn't get much screen time, he was very important significance to this movie, I think. Especially serving under Palpatine's wing.
Yeah.
And especially after, even though I haven't watched a lot, especially seeing him in, I haven't watched The Phantom Menace before Solo.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's been that long. It's been that long. So it's great. It's great to see. It's like he survives.
Yeah,
It's a
you're right. It
and a half.
solidifies that.
I mean, it's great to see Dalton Mall how he grown as a character from Clone
Right.
Wars to Rebels to a Solo. I mean, he's a villain that's like very underrated that not many people talk about in the prequels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all. And what's his name? The actor, he plays great.
Oh,
Ray Park.
Ray Park is
Thank
amazing.
you. And my third takeaway is just how cheesy the movie is.
It's true.
I mean,
It's very true.
I like it, but it's cheesy at the same time.
Right.
I mean, we have so many child's moments. Like there's one specific scene when Anakin goes into his future ship and he's trying to destroy the Droidekas, and he just flies off without even knowing how to do it. It's like,
Yeah.
of course, he knows how to drive do podcasting. I mean, pod racing.
Yes,
The microphone. He drives a podcast.
Drives a
Pod racer. Yeah.
Pod racing. I'm surprised he didn't kill himself there. This is just the end.
I know.
Yet everyone has to chew with Ray being a pilot.
I know, right? It's a good point.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't get it, Andrew.
Anakin's not a good driver, is he?
I mean, he's 9 years. Well, is he 9 or 10?
Ooh, that was that weird.
He's 9, turning 10, right?
Yeah.
Or the actor was.
Well, what's the cutoff age for kids being brought to the temple?
Was it 10?
I think it might have been 10, so that's why I think they say
Yeah. You think about it, the amount of lag time, yeah.
Because if he's 10 with Attack of the Clones, because it's a 10-year gap, it would make him 20 there. So at least with that, it's not as creepy with Padme being interested in him. Just saying.
That's true.
It's still weird that she likes a 10-year-old boy, and she's like 16.
I think she was 14.
Was she though?
I thought she was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Maybe Natalie Portman was, but I think she was playing either 13, 14.
It's still creepy.
She was pretty mature for age. I mean, of course, she's
still creepy. She wants a 10-year-old boy.
It is creepy.
Oh my goodness gracious, Andrew! Rewatching Phantom Menace via Disney Plus. What did you take away from it, my friend? 3 takeaways, because Sean had some interesting ones too.
Well, before I get into my takeaways, just how crisp it looks on Disney Plus is fantastic, and this was for the new 4K or Blu-ray release. So, and it was for the 3D release. So George Lucas cleaned it up for that.
Yeah.
And then I think Disney might have cleaned it up a little bit more before Disney Plus, but still, the effects, they hold up so well.
Yeah, they do.
None of the effects were jarring. They didn't take me out of it. But going into my 3 takeaways, for me, number 1, for music, you hear it a little in the beginning when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are fighting off the battle droids, but you never fully get the classic Force theme until Qui-Gon meets Anakin and he starts talking about the Force.
Right.
And that's when you start hearing the classic Force theme, when he starts talking about the prophecy of the Chosen One, everything like that. And just besides reading Master and Apprentice, you get a better feel of Qui-Gon's character, of why he does defy the Council and everything like that, and why he's familiar with the prophecies and stuff like that.
Right.
My second takeaway is all the little things I missed with Palpatine. Specifically, like, because sometimes when they're on Coruscant, the camera will linger on Palpatine a little bit, and you'll see a small, like, smirk.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Especially when the Queen decides to go back to Naboo. Right before the pan or whatever it's called, you see a little smirk, like, my plan's working.
Yeah, plan's working.
And then the other thing, it's a small detail, and I just noticed this today rewatching it. During the pod race, when Qui-Gon's watching the screen, when Sebulba and Anakin's pods are together, he closes his eyes. He's using the Force to break them apart.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never noticed that until rewatching it.
Yeah.
And I would have liked it if, like, Anakin used the Force or something like that, but seeing Qui-Gon use the Force to help Anakin win and everything like that is just really cool, and I've never noticed that in all my watch-throughs of the Phantom Menace. This one, because I'm trying to pay attention to more details for the podcast versions. Some of this, and it's just a really cool detail that I've never noticed. And it kind of gives a little bit more of an idea of how the Force works.
Yeah.
Because I asked you before, it's like, so does the person have to see where they are to use the Force on said person?
Right.
So that would kind of confirm it, that they have to at least see what's going on to use the Force in that specific area. So that was a really cool detail that I noticed.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think, in particular when it comes to the Phantom Menace, I think I agree with you, Andrew. I think it definitely holds up since 1999. I think Lucasfilm, and now in cooperation with Disney, ever since the purchase in 2012, have really taken the ideas of the prequels and everything that George had left behind and said, what can we do to make it even better? What can we do quality wise? Can we go back? Can we, can we make edits? Can we use the technology that Disney has acquired and has been able to gain through their hires to make this even better? And, you can say this from the Blu-ray perspective and now onto the Disney Plus platform in particular, is that they really focused on, what are we doing in the new films, and what qualities can we bring from the sequel trilogy back into the prequels in particular and into the original trilogy, in terms of technology, to make this thing look like the rest of the films that we are producing at this time. And my big three takeaways, I think, from Phantom Menace, in particular, are the subtleties. There were moments where I feel like you have these characters. You have Obi-Wan, you have, Anakin, you have Qui-Gon, you have Yoda, you have the Jedi Council, you have everything happening on Naboo, and you kind of scale it back. And I think the one moment for me that really took me back to when I was a kid watching Phantom Menace for the first time was when, and of all the moments, I never thought I'd think about this one in particular, but that entire sequence where we're introduced to Jar Jar Binks and we go to Gungan City, and they put it on the breathing apparatus and they see the Gungan City for the first time. It's really, you get a core idea of how expansive the Star Wars universe is in those moments. Phantom Menace really focuses on the subtleties to make you feel the distance and the space and who resides in this galaxy far, far away. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's something that's missing from the from the sequels in particular. That I think with JJ coming back for Rise of Skywalker, I think naturally he wants to wrap everything into it. I think we're finally going to see that. And that's something that I think George did masterfully in The Phantom Menace, was giving us a spectrum of how wide this galaxy is. So I love that. And then again, into the pod racing. I forgot how much I love the pod racing scene. And everybody, I can't even tell you to this day, they think that it's so corny They don't know why it's in there. I'm going to be honest with you. This is just me. I love The Last Jedi. Don't get me wrong. There's some things I really like in it. But I will take the pod racing scene over Canto Bight times 1,000.
Oh, it's
Times
the pod race is
1,000.
easily one of the best Star Wars sequences out there.
Yeah. And
Just
there's
the
so many
sound,
people.
just the
Something you
sound of
don't
the
see
pod
every day.
racers, just the sound of the pod racers themselves.
Yes.
That sequence, there's no music at all, just
None.
sound effects, and that
It's
says a
just sound
lot.
effects. It's just sound effects. And the one thing that I love to see, and I think Dave Filoni has really worked hard to pass on that legacy from George, is the idea of a Western, the idea of racing. What is the one thing, Dave, the whole reason that Resistance was created and why those ships were built the way they were and designed the way they were was because Dave remembers his dad taking him to the car rallies and to the way that people had their cars painted. That's exactly what the pod racing scene has shown. So people who enjoy Resistance and say that they don't like the prequels, please go back and watch the pod racing scene. That is straight out of what Dave Filoni has done with Resistance. He went back, he looked at it, he saw what George did with that, and he said, I want to bring that because it really inherits everything that I believe in and everything that I grew up with. So I think that that's the one part of Phantom Menace, again, stands out so much to me. And again, I'm going to bring it up. The scene when Qui-Gon dies, when Maul finally takes him out, and just the transition of Obi-Wan being the Padawan to finally becoming a Jedi Knight in that moment. And I think the one fascinating thing, and I think this is just through Qui-Gon's teachings necessarily, is that, and I think Luke realizes this at the end of Last Jedi, is that, if you can have balance, anger leads to hate, hate leads. That whole conversation amongst the Jedi Order is so false in so many ways because how does Obi-Wan act when his master falls? Think about those first few moves that Obi-Wan puts into Darth Maul.
He's
He's straight into
acting out of
hatred.
anger.
He's acting out of anger. He is touching on the dark side in so many different ways in that moment.
Easily.
And that's what Qui-Gon taught, was that you can have both and you can be successful in both realms of the Force, but as long as you balance it, that's what makes you successful. That's why Obi-Wan lived as long as he did,
Yep.
was because he was able to find a balance. He taught that to Luke and he was able to pass that on. That's what was so important in that.
I agree with that. So a detail I do want to add, which is actually confirmed from the Master and Apprentice book.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people had issue that Qui-Gon's they didn't change his attire for his funeral and stuff like that. But in the book, it ends right before Qui-Gon's funeral. Obi-Wan had his attire not changed for a specific reason, to show that the Sith have returned.
Yes.
And that a Jedi was killed by a Sith.
Why would have Mace Windu and Yoda had brought that up?
Exactly.
Why?
And he wanted to show the brutality of how he was killed.
Yes. It was a statement. It was a statement to the Jedi Order that because of your blindness, because of your, and I have to admit, you got to blame a little bit of Mace Windu and a little bit of Yoda on this, because Yoda was
Mace Windu.
A lot of it.
I'm gonna say it.
Through my distaste for Mace Windu as we go on.
I know you do have it. I mean, just that line from Yoda, you can really tell, and you see it in the Clone Wars when Palpatine, specifically when we're following the Yoda arc in particular, really how blinded by Palpatine Yoda was. Well, in the, darkness has a unique way of getting to us. It's like, what kind of statement is that? It either exists or it doesn't. You're being blinded by a Sith Lord. And if you have no ability to recognize that, then I'm sorry, Yoda. Come on, dude.
That's why. Actually, I'll save my comments for that for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, because it does kind of tie back in.
Now, the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
for Phantom Menace is easily one of my. If I had to choose like 3 for my
Mm-hmm.
favorite soundtracks, it would be Return of the Jedi,
Yep.
Phantom Menace, and Revenge of the Sith. Those are my top 3 that
Yeah.
I would go back to
Yeah.
and listen to over and over again.
Yeah.
And the one theme that is severely underrated is Anakin's theme. I
Very
forgot
much
how
so.
good Anakin's theme was, and I wish that it continued through the trilogy. And then because at the end of that theme, it does go into Vader's theme.
As it does.
So it would be cool if in like Revenge of the Sith, it transitioned fully into Darth Vader's theme.
It's almost like, and that's such a good point, Andrew, and I'm glad you bring that up because it'll be fascinating when I go back and I rewatch the end of Return of the Jedi when Luke redeems Vader and Vader speaks to him. How cool would it have been in that moment if they used that theme when Vader was
It
speaking
would
to
have been
Luke?
it would have been interesting.
Right, right. It would have been like
Mhm.
if Luke's theme had transitioned into that. Like it would have been like,
Yeah.
whoa, there's the connection. All right, I see it now. I see it. You know,
They should use that in Rise of Skywalker. That theme.
well, there's going to be a lot of
They
connection
could.
of themes. There's
Yeah.
It
gonna
should
be.
be.
There's gonna be. You're gonna see Leia's theme transition to Han's quickly, and you're gonna see it transition into Rey's. Like, there's gonna be a lot of that. A lot of that.
I
I
mean,
did
Duel
listen.
of Fates was always made me chill
Uh,
when I
Oh yeah,
watched it again.
that's
It was
easily the best theme that John Williams created. John Williams, I talk about him all the time. He is easily the best composer that has ever lived. Like, yeah, you can have your Hans Zimmers or um, Howard Shore,
right.
um, all these great composers. Nobody comes close to John Williams.
Yeah.
I could not
Mozart.
see any. I
That
could
was
not
the start.
see anybody else coming doing Star Wars besides John Williams. Each theme from Star Wars or any movie that he's composed, you can pull it out and be like, "That's from this theme. That's from this theme." That's why I love John Williams' music.
You
Yeah.
Is
could easily point. You could easily point that it's his music. And when I
exactly
listen to
Yeah.
if I listen to a different soundtrack, like Howard Shore or
Hans
whoever's
Zimmer.
like or Hans is like which is who? I can't figure out.
Exactly.
Sometimes I can.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Whereas John Williams, you can like, oh, that's Harry Potter, that's Jaws, Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah. And Sean, I just want to quickly shout out Sean on this one because years ago, I think it was just before we were heading, it was out of Force Awakens heading into Last Jedi in particular. Sean had written an article for
Oh right. Yes,
BrickCityBlockade.com
yes.
about the man with the baton, this, kind of his insight on John Williams. And you made a really good point in your article, Sean. And
I don't remember that article.
yeah, I know. And I want people to go before we head into Rise of Skywalker, head on over to the website and check out some of those articles because there's some really interesting points in there. And one that you brought up, Sean, that I think is so important is in your second paragraph in particular. You said that if you were to walk into a room with these composers, and I think you said Hans Zimmer in particular, you had said John, and you had mentioned one other. I'm not necessarily sure who it was, but it was another like comic book movie. Maybe it was.
Brian Tyler? Was it
It was
Brian
Brian
Tyler?
Tyler, Danny Elfman. It was like somebody who had done like
Maybe.
the Batman
Someone.
movies. Somebody who has been involved in musical scores for a long time. And you had said that if they were to compose the same piece of music with the same notes and everything, everything's the same orchestra, whatever else, you would still be able to pick the John Williams sound, no matter if it was different, same notes and everything. There's something unique about when John steps into a room, everybody escalates their ability to perform. And that's you said that in particular, and I want people to go read that because it is so important to remember that this is the man. And I will say this, Michael Giacchino got very close with Rogue One. He
He
got
did.
very close. He was almost an homage at times to John Williams. So
A little
definitely go
bit.
and check that out.
For me, I didn't really see
The
that
only
as much.
the only one that I could see replacing, okay, 2 people that I could see replacing
Mm-hmm.
John Williams is Kevin Kiner, who did Clone
Oh,
Wars and
Kiner,
Rebels,
definitely.
Oh yeah.
and who was the composer for Solo because he did really good.
Was
Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
John Powell.
John Powell. Yes, he did How to Train Your Dragon.
He
Bunch of
did
other
really
projects.
good.
he did the shooter movie too.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know
he
why
did.
I know that one so much. That's a good soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
But-
Kevin Kiner is probably the closest.
Mhm.
The
He has
closest.
that John Williams like feel to his music, which he should. Every composer that comes into Star Wars should at least try to match John Williams, which not a lot of people can do, but
Right. Right.
it's like I've watched videos of them performing like the Star Wars theme live and stuff like that. It's different when John Williams is composing it compared to someone else because they either play it too fast or too slow. They
Yeah.
never get the right tempo
I
or
mean,
speed for it.
I feel like that's like if every composer. I feel like John Williams couldn't do Lord of the Rings
No,
because it wouldn't feel right for John Williams to do Lord of the Rings or the
Lord of the Rings
Avengers
side of
or
it.
Mm.
Well, I think he could have pulled off Avengers.
I mean, he
I think
could
he
have,
could
but
have pulled off something for that, but Alice Silvestri was the better choice for the Avengers and Back to the
Sure.
Future.
It's a good point. It's a very, very good
Um,
point. So in terms of Phantom Menace, kind of as we're kind of looking at the 30-minute breaking point here for this review, 30 minutes I think will be ideal heading forward for most of our listeners out there,
Yeah.
and people who are going to be watching on Facebook, because there's going to be multiple series. These are people that are going to be
Yep.
wanting to watch. Okay, now I'm going to go check out the Attack of the Clones one.
we'll probably
Yeah.
we'll probably have the Last Jedi and Force Awakens a little bit longer, just because
yeah.
it's getting
those-
closer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think the one thing, in terms of Phantom Menace, that I'll propose to you guys, as a wrap up here, I'm going to call this little session here, make it or break it when it comes to Phantom Menace. What things do you think make it for Phantom Menace that you would like to see J.J. Abrams in The Rise of Skywalker take in? What aspect of the Phantom Menace do you want to see? And break it. What aspect of the Phantom Menace don't you want to see J.J. Abrams, or do you not want to see him touch when it comes to his job on The Rise of Skywalker? Because it will have to include something from that film in particular if he wants to wrap this entire sequel trilogy up. Andrew, I'll start with you on this one.
For me, it would be not specifically Qui-Gon itself, but more discussion on the Force. We had very little, and we barely any in not the Last Jedi, the Force Awakens.
Yeah.
We got a little in the Last Jedi, Luke's understanding of it now, but we haven't had any real talk on the
Yeah.
Force. We've only had it with Qui-Gon, and a little bit with Obi-Wan and A New
Yeah.
Hope. Other than that, nothing besides Clone Wars, but we're not going into Clone Wars.
Right.
I would like that. The breaking thing, no, don't get me wrong. I like Ahmed Best as a person, human being.
I knew you were going to say this one.
No slapstick characters.
Yeah,
Yes,
I agree. I agree
you
with
could
you.
say
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2-D2 are slapstick, but they're really
They've
not.
been
They've
been
been-
like that.
They've been like that since 1977.
Yeah.
So those are my two make or break things. I want more discussion on the Force. We've
Yeah.
never had it other than the TV series stuff. And we really, for those who just like the movies, they're the ones that are going to benefit more, learning more about the Force.
Yeah. I agree with
That's
you.
my two make or breaks.
What do you think, Sean? Make it and break it for Phantom Menace into The Rise of Skywalker.
I'll mix it up. I'll do break it first, and
Okay.
and I feel like they need to. I think JJ should not touch more on just the silliness of like the Phantom Menace, of how like very
It's like the slapstick, yeah.
yes, like less less slapstick comedy, more like
Yeah.
they tried that to do then in the last Jedi. Didn't really
With the
it-
Ray reaching out and Luke with the leaf.
Well, that was
I
kind of
mean,
more.
it was
It
funny.
felt out of place when you watched it the first time.
It was funny
After multiple
but
views, it
out
was
of
funny,
place.
but it was out of place the
It-
first time I felt.
I mean, a lot of
I'd say the most out of place spot for comedy was Cantabite, where BB-8's just shooting the shit out of him, and
Okay, I agree with you on that one too. Yeah.
that's why I don't mind the Luke slapping her hand and stuff like that, because that's a test.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think he needs to do more. Of course, is because J.J. Abrams is more of the Force Awakens type, little bit less comedy than
It was
that was.
quick in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yes,
Interesting.
and for me to make it, I think J.J. needs to show more, like, just stop staying. That's kind of a break it, but I was gonna say show more planets, more.
That's a make it. Yeah.
That's a make it.
Yeah,
Instead of like the same type of planets that we've already seen and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we have a desert planet, but we need.
I mean, break it's more of a, like, stop staying in one place, kind of like the Last Jedi did. In one,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
I like how the Phantom Menace was cleanly like moving around places easily. I think it just flowed naturally for the.
As slow as people say, Phantom Menace is a faster movie than I remember it being.
Much faster.
It was really quick when I watched it. It was like, wait, this movie's
Like-
over already?
Yeah, I was about to say we're getting into Duel of the Fates now. It's like I thought I just started this like a half hour ago.
It's
Like,
true.
it's
It's
you
true.
have like 20 minutes left at that minute mark.
I feel like the sequel trilogy has really focused on, and I don't know if this is them trying to get, Academy Awards or just the award season stuff. They are.
Star Wars already has enough awards. They don't need
I know
that as
They
much.
have the money.
the
They get-
dialogue.
the wars is money. That's what it is. They don't
They
care
have
about.
The sequel trilogy has focused so much on dialogue, I feel like, more than the important conversations. Like Phantom Menace has dialogue, but every time somebody opens their mouth, it's
It's
either a word of
important.
wisdom or it's something that's really going to affect. It has a storyline to every word that's spoken.
Exactly.
And I guess I'm gonna say it in particular. The only time I felt that in particular with The Last Jedi was really when Luke spoke. Like there was some lesson being taught, or it was going to affect everybody later on at some point. Some of the stuff that was happening with the Resistance, I was like, okay, here and there, all right. It just wasn't pulling me in on that level. It was great. I still think it's a Star Wars movie that's enjoyable, but it's fascinating, and I think that's where my break it comes in for JJ going into the Rise of Skywalker is if you're going to focus on dialogue, do it like Phantom Menace.
Make it
Everything
important.
leads. Yeah, everything leads. What Watto says affects Qui-Gon. What Qui-Gon says affects Anakin's mother's decision. What Anakin's mother's
Domino effect.
It's domino effect. The prequels does such a good job with domino effect. That's what I'll call it. That's what we'll call it here at the podcast. Domino effect dialogue, and that's what we need more of.
And like
Revenge of the Sith did it perfectly, though.
Oh,
the
Revenge
domino
of the
effect.
Sith was masterful at it.
yeah, we'll get.
We'll get into
I
that.
think prequel wise, I think Revenge of the Sith will be a little bit longer.
Yes,
There's a lot I do want to talk about with Revenge of the Sith.
I think we'll have like 5 or 6 top points, like
Yeah.
on that one.
Attack
But,
of the Clones can be maybe 4, because there is some good stuff in Attack of the Clones.
Mine's all
to
political
talk
stuff.
about.
It goes to
Of course,
I
yeah.
think
Well,
I think
that's-
mine's gonna be more
That's the thing.
political,
I
too.
do like a lot of the political stuff.
Yeah.
In Attack of the Clones, so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting in there.
So finally, my make it for JJ here is really because my last one, I guess that's kind of like a break it, make it, kind of like he's got to do more of it. But I think my make it in particular for and I guess it's kind of a make it break it too, that the Phantom Menace did. Um, if you're going to do a duel, do it up big. And I think the previews for the Rise of Skywalker is showing maybe multiple duels here that are going to be big in these moments.
I
And
think there'll be 2 quick duels,
yeah,
and the duel we see on that raining planet will be the full like duel.
yes,
And I think it
I
will.
think that's gonna be the quick duel.
No, I think the quick duel is going to be on the Star Destroyer where they destroy the helmet. Then there might be one where they meet up again, and then that'll be the last one.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that will be like either Duel of the Fates style of um, the duel or Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I think we'll get into that when we
Yeah.
get more into Revenge of the Sith, because that's where I'm heading here, is into like the Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin scene, and then finally you get Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like there's always that borderline, okay, this is the small one that has to happen and something dramatic has to happen so that when we get to that moment it's like, oh,
Mhm.
this is the duel of all duels right here. This is where it's all come down to. So we'll move into that more when we have that
Because
discussion.
that duel is where I can see Duel of the Fates, but other heroes showing up and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Oh,
That-
another thing I noticed this time is the
Mhm.
Maz Kanata statue.
Yeah, the statue there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yes.
that's fascinating, isn't it?
Also, another theory I had, do you think the dreams of Anakin becoming a Jedi were dreams from Palpatine and he was manipulating his dreams to
We never
tell
get
his
an
future?
in-depth look at whether those are it's dreams of him as a Jedi coming to save his people, or him as Vader, or
Yeah,
maybe
because
the
at
Sith
that
Lord
point
coming
you
to do
wouldn't know
something.
the difference. So,
No, he wouldn't, and he acts on anger very quickly in the
also,
Phantom Menace.
what's Quinlan Voss doing on Tatooine?
A very good question. Very good
There's
question.
so many questions.
Quinlan Voss on Tatooine. He knows something.
Yeah,
He knows something that he doesn't want to talk about. But no, I mean, I think, and for anybody out there who wants to follow along with us, make sure you go back, rewatch the Phantom Menace, rewatch the prequels. That's our first
Mhm.
3 that we're going to go through. So make sure to
Yeah.
enjoy that. Subscribe to Disney Plus if you haven't yet already, and enjoy the prequels while we have them. Again, it's been amazing to actually just go on there, and I have to admit, one of the best moments for me, excuse me, was actually to go on to Disney Plus and actually see all these Star Wars films right before me that I can actually watch. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I got a little emotional when I saw it, because I never thought that I would see the day, as a kid growing up with not a lot in my family, and having to rely on VHSs or going to Blockbuster to go rent it out in particular. And that
Oh,
was the
yeah.
big night for us, was to go do that. That I, as an adult, someday would be sitting down and have all these films at my, and I don't want to say my disposal, but at the ready, so that I could go and watch them when I want. And I kind of had like an emotional moment. I was like, look how far this world has become, that we actually have
Technology,
that. Yeah, I know.
just
And
just a tap of the finger.
Andrew's
Right now,
getting
you
a
can watch.
big fucking hug from me when I get down there, because
Well, I'm sorry to
Uh,
say your subscription should cancel.
fuck that dick.
I wouldn't
Oh.
do that for you.
But it really was, and I really encourage everybody who goes on to Disney Plus and really think about that, how far we've
Yeah.
come, and as much as people want to rank on Disney, look at what they've done for the
They've done a
fandom.
lot. They've done a lot. And as someone who has the physical steelbooks of the Star Wars films, it is nice to just be able to go on an app and just click, oh, I want to watch Return of the Jedi. Just watch it right there instead of having to take it out of the case and put it in the Blu-ray player. Like, yeah, I'll still put in my regular Blu-rays and stuff, especially for Last Jedi, but it's just
Yeah.
more convenient that way. And they look a lot better now than even in the original Blu-ray release of them and so on.
Yeah. So we've hit that time of anything here at the Brick City Blockade, folks. That's right. It's a little thing we like to call
Plug time.
Plug
That's
time.
plug time. Mr. Sean Michaud, I will start off with you. Where can the good people find you across social media?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at ShamaShow1. Follow my Instagram at It'sZoneZ. Follow my music at Bandcamp. Bandcamp and SoundCloud. And friend me and follow me on Facebook.
Andrew Gerrish, where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at agarish1, Instagram Andrew62592, YouTube Commander Nerd. I should have a video up on Friday. Not really a long video, because the longer video is going to be next Friday when I do. Well, it'll be recorded Thursday when they're all down here, but I'll upload the video on Friday.
Right.
For the release of Rise of Skywalker and stuff like that. Is the full day vlog of them coming down, hanging out with us, and the lightsaber duels we're gonna recreate. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. It might just be a review on one of my Ultra Sabers or something like that. So
Nice. Looking forward to it. And I will say this, guys, go ahead and follow these guys. Don't worry about following me. I'm not giving you any extensive plug time. Just to check out www.brickcityblockade.com. Follow us on Twitter and like our page on Facebook. You know where to find me. So for Sean Michaud and Andrew Gerrish, hosts of Words of the Wills, this is Robin Vogt signing off here on the Brick City Blockade. And as we always say, hey.
May the Force be with you.
Force be with you. Sayonara.
That's not how we say it.
That's not how we say it. That's not sayonara.
Be.
That's how we say it. Okay, all right. I'll go with the flow on that one.
Fuck it, whatever.
Andrew's just shaking his head.
No.
Here, have the bulb dangling.
I don't want your ball.